Okay, let's unpack this. Picture a millionaire. What flashes in your mind?
Hmm.
Maybe a gleaming sports car, a fancy watch, a sprawling penthouse with a killer view.
Yeah, the usual stuff. Ferraris, Rolexes.
Exactly. That's the image society loves to sell us, right?
Yeah.
But what if the reality was, well, a whole lot less flashy?
And that's where this book comes in. The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley and William Danko. Their research, it's pretty groundbreaking.
Totally groundbreaking. It flips that whole image on its head.
Yeah, forget the Lamborghinis. They looked at how everyday folks, quietly build substantial wealth. It's surprising.
It really is. So for this deep dive, we're plunging right into The Millionaire Next Door. We want to pull out those key insights, the stuff that's often kind of counterintuitive about how real lasting wealth actually gets built.
Think of it like a shortcut. A
Yeah.
shortcut to understanding the practical strategies.
Right. And this brings up a point for you listening.
Yeah.
You probably have your own ideas about what a millionaire looks like, how they live.
Mm-hmm.
Prepare for maybe a bit of a reality check, because Stanley and Danko's findings, genuinely eye-opening. They might really challenge some assumptions.
Definitely. So where should we start? The big myth.
Let's dive right into busting that one. The flashy, big-spending millionaire.
Well-
Pop culture just loves showing the ultra-rich living these huge, extravagant lives.
But the book paints a completely different picture. It's almost the opposite, really.
How so?
Well, a core finding, maybe the core finding, is just how frugal most actual millionaires are. Remarkable frugality. They are masters, truly, at living below their means.
Okay, so give us some examples. Like, what does that look like day to day?
Well, think about this. They often drive cars that are several years old, used cars even.
Not the brand new models every year.
Nope. And their clothes. It's about practicality, not high fashion. And you might even see them using coupons. Seriously.
It's almost hard to square that with the millionaire image, isn't it? The book has these great stats, like the average millionaire they surveyed spent less than, what, $400 on a suit?
Yeah, less than $400. And they tend to hold onto their cars and homes for years and years, not constantly upgrading.
That really makes you think, because it contrasts so sharply with, well, with other people.
Exactly. And this connects to a bigger point, a really critical insight. The difference between being income rich and actually wealthy.
Okay, explain that.
You see lots of people earning big salaries, right? 6 figures, maybe more. But they're constantly chasing the appearance of wealth.
The fancy car, the big house.
Right, accumulating debt to keep up that image. They spend pretty much everything they earn. So high income, but they're asset poor.
Ah, okay. So the income looks good on paper,
Mhm.
but there's nothing substantial building up underneath.
Precisely. Which leads to maybe the most important takeaway here, building wealth. It isn't primarily about how much money comes in.
It's about how much stays.
That's it. It's fundamentally about how much stays with you. That gap, between your earnings and your spending, that's what really shapes your financial future.
That's powerful. So it's less about the paycheck size and more about the saving rate.
Bingo. And Stanley and Danko actually coined a term for the people who get this right. They call them PAWs.
Pause.
Yeah, prodigious accumulators of wealth. And what's fascinating about these PAWs, they're usually not who you'd expect.
Right, not necessarily the tech billionaires or lottery winners we hear about.
Not usually, no. The book gives these compelling examples of PAWs often thriving in what you might call ordinary industries.
Like what?
People who own, say, plumbing companies or self-storage facilities, construction businesses, seemingly unglamorous stuff.
Okay, so solid, necessary businesses.
Exactly. Or you see teachers who started investing early, very consistently, or just regular couples who made saving like 20% of every paycheck a total non-negotiable.
There's a great case study in the book, right? A couple earning under $100 K for most of their lives.
Oh yeah, that one's fantastic. They retired as multimillionaires.
Just by saving.
Pretty much. By consistently maxing out their 401ks, that retirement savings plan lots of employers offer, and deliberately, consciously avoiding lifestyle inflation.
Meaning they didn't just spend more every time they got a raise.
Right. They kept their spending steady even as their income grew. They quietly built this huge nest egg while their neighbors probably just assumed they were, struggling a bit.
Wow. That really hits home.
Yeah.
It connects to that fresh spark idea the book talks about, doesn't it?
Explain that.
Well, focusing on utility, on building real value, owning equity in something,
Yeah.
and prioritizing investing that extra income instead of just upgrading the car or the house again.
Yes, exactly. Utility over appearances, investing over spending.
And this all points towards the power of having a plan, right? It's not accidental.
Absolutely not. Millionaires don't just stumble into wealth. They approach it strategically, with intention, like it's a major project.
So what does that actually look like? What's in the plan?
Well, according to the book, a few key things. First, they actually know their net worth, which sounds basic, but surprisingly few people track that number.
Okay, know where you stand financially.
Right. Then they actively track where their money is going. Budgeting, expense tracking, whatever you want to call it. They have a handle on the flow.
And they set goals.
Clear, long-term financial goals. They know what they're aiming for.
So pause, the prodigious accumulators. They might actually write down an investment plan, set like annual savings targets.
Often, yes. And they review things regularly, maybe monthly, just checking in, making sure they're on track. It's not about being a financial wizard necessarily.
It's about being deliberate.
Deliberate and engaged with their money. Yeah.
And the contrast is pretty stark with what the book calls UAWs, under accumulators of wealth.
Very stark. These are the folks who tend to avoid budgeting. They find it restrictive, maybe unpleasant.
And their financial decisions might be less logical.
Often based more on emotion or keeping up appearances rather than cold, hard logic. They often lack that clear picture of their overall financial health.
So the raw insight here is really powerful, isn't it? You just can't effectively grow something you don't monitor.
You really can't. Doesn't matter if it's a fancy spreadsheet or just a simple notebook. Getting clarity on where your money is actually going, that's absolutely fundamental if you want to multiply it over time.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Something else that really stood out to me was this idea of avoiding the status trap.
Ah, yes. Keeping up with the Joneses. Or rather, not keeping up.
The book makes this really direct observation. A lot of people living in those fancy upscale neighborhoods, they aren't actually millionaires.
They just look like it. They have the expensive house, the nice cars, but often it's financed heavily.
So how do the real millionaires, the PAWs, approach this?
This is a key difference. Their choices about where they live, what they buy, they're driven by their actual values and needs, not by a desire to impress anyone.
So you might find a self-made millionaire.
Sending their kids to public school.
Yeah.
Totally. Driving a reliable, maybe older, used car like a Toyota. Absolutely.
And consciously avoiding those high-status zip codes.
Yeah, because they know that living there often comes with immense pressure to constantly spend and upgrade just to fit in. They understand that trying to look rich is one of the fastest ways to stay broke.
The environment matters a lot then.
Hugely. If everyone around you is constantly buying the newest gadget, fanciest car, it's incredibly hard not to get sucked into that cycle yourself.
But if you surround yourself with people who value, say, financial independence or experiences over things,
It has a profoundly positive effect. It reinforces your own choices, your own mindset.
which brings us to that sort of new idea the book puts forward, right? Shift the focus.
Exactly. Stop focusing on buying stuff to impress people you don't even know or like.
And instead,
Build wealth for your own freedom, your own security. It's about internal satisfaction, not needing validation from the outside.
that makes sense. Now, the book also touches on something a bit sensitive. Raising kids.
Raising financially independent children. And their findings here might surprise some people. They're potentially a bit controversial.
What do they find?
Their research suggests that giving adult children really substantial financial gifts, what they sometimes call economic outpatient care, can actually sometimes unintentionally hinder that child's own ability to build wealth.
Okay, wait. Giving your kids money can make it harder for them to become wealthy. That sounds backward.
It does sound counterintuitive, I know, but the reasoning is pretty compelling.
Explain it.
Well, think about it. When you remove the need for them to struggle, to figure things out, to overcome financial challenges on their own.
You might be removing the very things that build drive.
Exactly. Drive, ambition, resourcefulness. Those qualities that are often essential for building your own financial success. If everything's handed to you.
You don't develop those muscles.
Precisely. The book gives this example. Kids of self-made millionaires who were taught the value of earning their own way, maybe working from a young age,
They were more likely to build their own wealth.
significantly more likely compared to kids who just consistently receive financial support without having to earn it. That economic outpatient care.
So the fresh lens here isn't about being stingy or cutting kids off completely,
Not at all. It's more about how you support them. It's about teaching them the fundamental principles.
like compound interest, delayed gratification.
Yeah, the power of compounding, the importance of waiting for rewards, how to actually create value themselves, fostering capability, not entitlement.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Mike it
It's about education and values, not just handouts.
Exactly. Teach them how to fish. Don't just give them fish.
Got it. Okay, so finally, let's talk about the path itself. The book really emphasizes something that's, well, maybe not very exciting.
Right. The somewhat unglamorous truth about building wealth, it's generally not about some get-rich-quick scheme.
No secret formula, no lucky break.
For the vast majority of millionaires studied, no.
Yeah.
The journey to financial security is actually, well, it can seem kind of boring from the outside.
Boring how? What does the boring path look like?
It really boils down to consistent, disciplined habits over a very long time.
Like we discussed, consistently spending less than you earn.
Check. Investing regularly, systematically over the long haul. Decades, often.
Check. Diligently avoiding that lifestyle creep as your income goes up.
Big check on that one. And prioritizing the long-term freedom that wealth provides over just buying more stuff right now.
Valuing freedom over fleeting material things.
That's the core of it. It's discipline, it's patience, it's consistency.
The story of Ronald Reed, the janitor. That illustrates this perfectly, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The Vermont janitor, quiet guy, lived very frugally, no one knew.
And he amassed, what, an $8 million fortune?
$8 million. Through decades of just saving, living below his means, and investing very simply and consistently in solid blue-chip stocks, he surprised everyone.
Because he didn't look like the image of a millionaire.
Not at all. But he deeply understood these core principles. Living below your means, investing patiently, that unglamorous, steady path.
Which brings us back to that really potent line from the book.
Wealth whispers. Debt screams.
Yeah, that says so much. The quiet, steady power of building assets versus the loud, often stressful burden of owing money.
So, if we were to kind of synthesize everything we've talked about,
Bring it all together.
the central theme of The Millionaire Next Door is pretty clear. Quiet money is real money. True wealth isn't really about the outward show.
It's a result of your habits, your choices, your mindset.
Exactly. Consistent habits, deliberate choices, a long-term mindset. It's generally not about luck or some big inheritance, though those can happen. It's about what you do.
And ultimately, that message is incredibly empowering, isn't it?
Very much so. It tells you that you have significant control, significant agency over your financial future.
By making conscious choices.
Yeah.
Prioritizing values over vanity.
Making saving just a fundamental part of your financial life, not an afterthought.
Investing consistently, even if it's small amounts at first.
Committing to living below your means.
Yeah.
You absolutely can achieve financial freedom. It's accessible.
It puts the power back in your hands.
It really does.
Yeah.
Which leads nicely into our challenge for you listening.
Okay, the one simple challenge. What is it today?
Take a few moments, maybe later today, and just honestly assess your current spending. Ask yourself, are my choices mainly focused on actively building wealth for the future?
Or are they more geared towards acquiring maybe short-term distractions? Things that feel good now, but don't build long-term security.
Be honest with yourself, and then
Identify just one concrete action, something you can do today to move towards becoming more of a wealth builder. A paw.
what could that be?
Well, maybe it's finally calculating your net worth.
Yeah,
Just getting that baseline number.
good one. Or maybe opening that investment account you've been thinking about, just taking the first step.
Or something simpler. Canceling a subscription you don't really use or value anymore. Freeing up that cash flow.
Or even brainstorming a practical side hustle, something in a solid, maybe even boring industry like the book talks about. Just one small step.
One step in the right direction.
Exactly. And let's leave you with this final thought to chew on. Ultimately, being rich, it isn't really about all the stuff you own. The cars, the house, the watches.
What is it about then?
It's about the peace of mind. It's about what you can afford not to worry about. Financial stress, job loss, unexpected expenses. Having wealth means those things don't dominate your life.
It's about freedom.
It's about freedom. So consider deeply what that sense of freedom truly means to you. And reflect on how the principles we've explored today, the lessons from The Millionaire Next Door, can help guide you towards achieving it.